might have. Okay. Okay, so بس هيك refresher سريع عن الدايود. We said that the diode can be in the forward mode, and in the forward mode it acts as a short circuit, and we have to verify or check whether the current is positive. And we said the second mode for the diode is the reverse mode, and in the reverse mode بدل ما بنطلع على الدايود current in the direction of the arrow, we set it to an open circuit, and the voltage is also in the direction of the arrow, and we want to check if V is negative to verify when we solve. Last time we studied the rectifier in the diode circuit. Today we are going to look at the battery charging circuit. Okay, so هنطلع على شيء اسمه battery charging circuit. Okay, so or battery charger. Okay, let's look at this circuit. I have a supply Vs, okay, which is between those two nodes. It is feeding a resistor, which is connected to a diode, which is connected to a battery. Okay, and the battery هيدول اثنيناتهم يعني connected للground. The battery has a voltage source of 12 volts. Okay, and my diode في عندها plus minus VD وعندها diode current ID. Okay, now Vs is sinusoidal, so this is a sinusoidal signal which has 24 volts peak voltage. Okay, شو يعني Vs عنده 24 volts؟ يعني Vs of t is equal to 24 sine omega t. Okay, now the battery is a 12 volt battery. So can we guess why we placed the diode in this direction? كيف شكله السينوزويد؟ How does the sinusoid look like if I have a sinusoidal signal? This is Vs.
We placed this because the capacitor now.
This is not a capacitor, بس خليني انتبه ارجع عادلكم انه here this is a 12 volt battery and we are trying to charge it. How do I charge a battery?
By supplying it with voltage.
صح، بدنا نبعث لها charges يعني، صح؟ بدنا نبعث لها Q. بدنا نبعث لها current يقطع فيها from, I think if I recall well, from the anode to the cathode, right? From the positive to the negative. So instead of the battery delivering the current, لما هي it delivers the current, it discharges. When we يعني هي الباتري تقريبا إذا بدك تفكر فيها ككاباسيتر، بس هلا عم نطلع عليها كفولتج سورس، إنه إذا الفولتج كان يعني أعلى من 12 كيف بيمشي الكارنت؟ كيف حيروح الكارنت على الباتري؟ كيف بقدر أبعت كارنت على الباتري إذا هي صح؟
لازم نروح
So I need to have for the current to flow بده يروح I من البوزيتيف للنيجاتيف، صح؟ بده يمشي الكارنت من البوزيتيف للنيجاتيف, right? So I need to have a voltage higher than the battery to provide it with a current for it to charge. إذا كان الفولتج أوطى من الباتري شو بصير بالكارنت؟ من وين لوين بيروح؟
من الباتري.
من
الباتري. So exactly. So كأنها عم تعمل شو؟ Discharging. It will dissipate heat into the circuit. It will send current. It will discharge, right? So we want to prevent discharging. We only want to charge the battery, right? So what is a good way to prevent discharging the battery? إنه شو حطينا هون؟
more than
one direction.
So we put the diode to allow the current only to go in one direction from the supply to the battery Okay, so the diode is going to allow the current to go from the supply to the battery حسب الدايركشن تاعون ID. And in this case, إذا السبلاي أعلى من الباتري, it charges it. If the supply is lower than the battery, it blocks the current. Okay, so this is what we are going to explain now. So عندنا Vs of t is a 24 volt peak to peak signal. So this is the first requirement in higher Vs or higher 24 volt, and it is higher. So this is higher. Okay, and it is higher than the battery voltage. يعني إذا VS أوطى من الباتري voltage هذا السيركت ما بيدور، ما بقدر أعمل له تشارج. هلا is VS always higher than the battery voltage? No. What is the key requirement للباتري voltage? شو الباتري voltage? 12. So, okay. When will the diode turn on? Any time where VS is what?
Higher than 12.
Higher than 12. Great. So اللي حنعمله إنه حنجي نرسم الدايود current. يعني أنا هون حأرسم ال VS of T and I diode of T. Okay. And the diode current, the diode will not turn on. It will be off لما ال VS يكون أوطى من الباتري voltage لأنه الفولتج اللي قالها نيجاتيف. فإذا the diode current will be 0 until VS hits 12. Then I will have some diode current. هيدا ID current. يعني هيدا 12 هي volts. Okay. So let me draw the 12 volt in blue. تكون هي الليمت للفولتج حتى بس تميزوا بين الفولتج وال okay. So this is 12 and this is in volts. Okay, and this is ID, and ID of course is in milliamp. يعني هيدا sketch عم نرسمه نحن هون. Okay, and so once the voltage VS drops below 12 بيرجع الكرنت بيصير 0. هون لما ال VS negative في عندي current شيء VS negative. No, it's still below 12. I continue 0 until I hit the 12 again, and then it rises and it continues periodically. Okay, so is this clear why the diode current only turns on when VS is greater than 12?
Professor?
Yes. Yes, sorry.
Sorry, can you repeat briefly because the electricity got out?
So let me write those notes as I am repeating. Okay, so the basic idea is that, let us write it them down. The basic idea is that when VS is less than the battery, okay, اللي هو equal to 12 volts, the diode will be off. Okay, and I diode will be equal to 0. And when VS is greater than V battery, right, which is 12 volt, the current will flow from the diode to, the current will flow from the positive voltage, يعني VS, from the higher voltage, right, to the lower V battery. اوكي، لأن الكارنت بيروح من الهاير فولتج يعني VS لعند اللور فولتج اللي هو الفي باتري. اوكي،
Okay, thank you. يعني without a diode we can't charge a battery, صح؟
without a diode what will happen لما الفي باتري تصير أعلى من الفي اس بصير الباتري عم ترد الكارنت باك من الهاير لللور، تعمل discharge.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to write that بس اللي ما انتبهوا، يعني diode blocks discharging the battery. Okay, طيب هلا we know those rules and regulations. صار فينا نطلع على how to solve for this circuit. Okay, so now if I want to solve for this circuit, أول شيء بدي أطلع عليه هو how to evaluate what is the current, what is the average current of the diode, etc. with operation of the diode in the two modes. So in the forward mode, when the battery is on, لما diode is on عفوا, the forward mode, لما Vs is greater than 12 volts in this example, okay, what we have is we are going to single page. Okay, what we will have is we will have the diode will be short circuit, right? And we will have a model for the circuit which looks like this. إذا طلعنا على هيدا السيركت هون صار فينا نرسمه ك VS. Okay, there is a resistor R. The diode is a short circuit, and then I have a 12 volts here. Okay, and this is R. ID is in the direction of the current diode اللي كانت موجودة قبل. Okay, so in this scenario now here I can solve for what ID is. What is the equation for ID? إذا جينا طلعنا على هاي الصفحة شو بتساوي ال ID؟ خلينا نكتبها وننقلها على تاني صفحة. ID is equal to what? Is it difficult to guess what ID is?
VS minus 12 على R.
So this is Vs minus 12 على R, and this equation is only valid when Vs is greater than 12. Okay, بتكون هيدي فيها short circuit. Okay, طيب great. So أنا إذا بقدر أكتب in the same condition ID is equal to Vs minus 12 على R, بس what is Vs equal to? It's equal to 24 sine omega t minus 12 على R. Okay, so this is what ID of t is, and this is ID of t. Okay, now therefore the verification is ID is positive when 24 sine omega t when Vs is greater than 12. Okay, and now we can start to talk about something called the conduction angle. شو يعني الconduction angle؟ يعني قديش part من البيريد إذا اعتبرت البيريد بين 0 t أو ثيتا إذا عم بحكي عن sin ثيتا between 0 and 2 pi, how much of this 2 pi period am I conducting؟ قد إيه عم بستفيد من the time of the signal to charge the battery. Okay, so the conduction angle is, if we look and draw the signal again, بس حتى نوضحها على الرسمة. If this is Vs of t again, okay, and let us draw Vs in blue. So this is Vs of t over 1 period. Okay, and this is the current. نحن اتفقنا إنه لما الفولتج هون بيقطع 12. Okay, so this is a 12. This is a 24. And here is where the current is going to start. Our objective now is to determine هيدي فيها تطلع لنا هيدي current milliamp. Okay, is to determine قديش هي هيدي conduction angle. طيب, why am I saying angle? Technically the period هي هون عندي 0. هون شو عنا t وهون شو عنا t over 2. Okay, if I want to say that I have sine omega t وحطينا a transformation that says let theta equal omega t, هذا بصير sin theta. صح؟ اتفقنا إنه إذا عملنا transformation theta equal omega t بصير sin theta. إذا t varies between 0 and t, theta is going to vary between 0 and 2 pi. يعني بالنسبة لثeta with respect to theta. Okay, so this is time عم يتغير بين 0 and t, and theta is going to vary between 0 and 2 pi. Okay, so theta will vary between 0 and 2 pi. So أنا if I'm trying to look at the conduction angle بدي أحاول أشوف بين 0 to pi، طبعا هي النقطة هي كمان باي. Okay, I need to figure out قديش الثeta of conduction. Okay, قديش part من الphase of the sinusoidal for ID or the sinusoidal in general period I am conducting. Now, how can I find? So we are going to solve for two quantities. The first quantity is theta 1 اللي هي هون. Okay, and the second quantity is theta 2, and theta 1 and theta 2 represent this quantity. Do I know what is the interval here? يعني قديش يعني أنا بعرف إنه هون في عندي باي I am inactive. لأقدر أعرف الأكتف بين الزيرو والباي بدي أعرف theta 1 و theta 2 subtract them from pi, right? So let us look at how we solve for theta 1. So to solve for theta 1, how do I solve for theta 1?
Sin theta 1 equal 12.
Okay, so I know that هلا انتبهوا إنه what is the signal that I have Vs, if I write Vs as 24 sine omega t, right? I can also write it as 24 sine theta, right? So at theta 1, okay, Vs is equal to 24 sine theta 1 is equal to what? 12, right? Correct? يعني at T1 or theta 1, Vs equal 24 sine omega t is equal to 12. وفيني اعتبرها انه انا I'm solving for 24 sine theta 1 equal to 12. Is this clear أو حدا عنده سؤال؟ Is it clear for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. طب great. What is يعني sine theta 1 is equal to 12 على 24 is equal to half. مين الانجل? Which angle gives me sine theta equal
5/6.
5 over 6. If and only if theta 1 is equal to pi over 6. And also, it's the same solution, pi minus pi over 6, right? Is that correct? صح؟ يعني the same angle إذا أنا عندي angle من هون الباي ماينس هيدا الانجل مش معناتهم بيعطوني نفس الساين. This is theta 1 and this is pi minus, right? Okay, so I find those two angles as the solution for the intersection here. يعني هيدا الانترسكشن happens at theta 1. هلا theta 2 هي فعليا قد theta 1 by symmetry. يعني نحن لقينا هيدي theta 1 sorry and this is not theta 2. خليني بس أصلحها. اوكي الرسمة لأنه راسمينها غير. So this is and then or theta equal pi minus pi over 6 is also a solution. هيدي another solution. اوكي على الرسمة theta 1 و theta 2 قد بعضهم يعني أنا عم برجع فيها رجوع هاي. اوكي but I know what is the conduction angle. What is the conduction angle? شو conduction angle؟ إذا أنا بعرف if now I have this solution that says if this is my 0 and this is my
pi minus pi over 6 minus pi over 6.
Yes, so هيدي أول نقطة على pi over 6 صار أول intersection وتاني intersection صار على pi minus pi over 6. Okay, and I want to calculate my conduction angle اللي هي هون. Okay, وهيدي طبعا الباي من وراهم. Okay, so this is really how my signal is changing. Okay, لأن أنا إذا هيدا هو ال I ID, if this is how my ID looks like, if I want to draw the voltage under it here, and just as a sketch, not to scale, okay, إذا هيدا هو intersection of the voltage مع 12, okay, so this is happening. If this is 12, this is happening. هالintersections عم بيصيروا على هالنقطة وعلى هالنقطة تقريبا، اللي هي لما 24 sin omega t is equal to 12، أو لما 24 sin theta equals to 12. عم نطلع the value for theta 1، عم نطلع the value for theta 2 إذا نظرنا لها من الزيرو. And in this case, at those theta 1 and theta 2, conduction will start and conduction will end, okay? And therefore the conduction angle is between both of them. يعني at theta 1, conduction starts, okay? And at theta 2, conduction ends, okay? And therefore the conduction angle is equal to theta 2 minus theta 1 اللي هي 5 pi over 6 minus pi over 6 يلي بتطلع 4 pi over 6 يلي هي 2 pi over 3 for the circle. Okay? حدا عنده سؤال؟ And let me fix بس الثeta 2 حتى ما تبين إنه هي it is this location here. يعني I did not mean by the remaining angle. Okay? حدا عنده سؤال؟ Anybody has a question how we found the conduction angle?
نو بس دكتور انت وعم ترسمي اي دي بتعرفي قد ايه الامبليتيود شي؟
الامبليتيود for ID how do we find؟ هلا بنحكي عن ال peak current. What is the peak current for ID? What is ID?
VS minus 12 over R.
ID is equal to exactly
VS
24 sin omega t minus 12 على R. صح؟ طيب when VS is greater than 12 يعني إذا جينا رسمنا ال VS okay where is the peak ID?
will be for VS equal 24.
Okay, so the peak current, so the peak ID is if and only if VS is max, صح? minus 12 على R, which is equal to 24 minus 12 على R, صح? Okay, so the peak current therefore is found when V is max. So next time we will continue to solve for the average current and talk about the diode when it's in reverse mode. حدا عنده سؤال بعد؟
أنا السؤال صغير. ليه نو واي الثيتا تكون تبلش على البوينت 0 ثيتا 1 يعني ليه ما بيبلشوا سوا بيطلعوا؟
لأنه I need for the diode to be on بده يكون الكرنت بالسيركت going from the positive to the negative. And what is VS starting from? VS مبلش من الزيرو صح؟ Okay. When VS starts at 0 إذا VS is 0 هون وهيدي minus 12 plus 12 بيمشي current؟ كيف الدايركشن للكرنت؟
لا إذا
ما
بيكون
بيمشي.
مينيموم
بدي مينيموم وصل ل 12
Okay.
لحتى اقدر بلش الكوندكشن.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now I am going to stop, and I want you all to go to the model page. Okay.